Aren't the days of TikTok in the US numbered? For months, some politicians have been trying to ban the app in the country. Now it's getting its day in court at a hearing which could decide its fate. Well, TikTok has until January to shed its parent company, ByteDance. The firm will attempt to persuade a three-judge panel in a US appeals court that the measure is unconstitutional. The law was passed earlier this year in response to concerns among politicians that the Chinese government could potentially exploit the data of TikTok's 170 million US users. Well, let's speak now to Ashley Gold, a technology and policy reporter at Axios. Ashley, there's been a big push for a while now for TikTok to be banned in the United States. Just bring it into context about what today's hearing means in terms of that push from a number of politicians across the political spectrum who want to basically get rid of it.
Day, both for those who hope to see TikTok banned in the US and for TikTok and its supporters and creators and users that can't imagine a world without TikTok. This court is one of the final stops before we see if the law that the US Congress passed that you referenced will stand up. They can, they can rule in TikTok's favor, and then the law would be found unconstitutional and TikTok could keep doing what it has been doing here in the US. Or they could rule in the government's favor, and then TikTok would be faced with a decision. Do we sell, do we divest to an American company, or do we cease to operate in this country? And if they don't come to a definitive resolution, it could go to the Supreme Court. So we're really getting down to the wire here when it comes to the app's fate in the country.
And Ashley, what arguments have we been hearing in the court from both parties?
So Justice Department lawyers argue that it is, not a First Amendment violation to block TikTok in the country if it is owned by a foreign adversary like China. TikTok kept trying to bring up that other American media companies have foreign ownership. They brought up Politico being owned by Axel Springer. They brought up the fact that the BBC can operate in the United States. But where the DOJ lawyers differ is saying those are allies. Those are, countries that we don't actively have adversarial relationships with. What happens if the Chinese Communist Party decides to exert undue influence on TikTok and its algorithm in the US? The TikTok lawyers say there's no reason to think this would ever happen. It hasn't happened yet. ByteDance operates completely independently and doesn't tell us what to do either. And you are violating, our First Amendment rights as a company and all of the users' First Amendment rights by, threatening to squelch this app in the US.
So TikTok's basically saying this is all about free speech, which of course is something that is often cited in these kind of cases in the US.
Yes, and when it has to do with free speech in the First Amendment, it's a lot. The people bringing the law, the Justice Department, Congress, they have a much higher bar to clear when it comes to getting a law passed because there's such strict scrutiny and such high requirements on First Amendment cases because we have a strong First Amendment here in the US. So TikTok wanted to argue that the whole thing is about the First Amendment. It should be thrown out just because of that. Whereas the Justice Department, members of Congress who passed this law, say because it's a national security interest, the First Amendment concerns can be set aside a little bit here. TikTok does not agree.
Okay, very briefly, Ashley, what happens after this court hears those arguments?
So this 3-member panel at the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, they decide what to do, and it has to be at least 2 votes that are the same in order to come to a decision. So 2 out of 3 judges have to agree. And say TikTok loses, they will probably ask for an injunction so the law does not go into effect while they appeal up to the Supreme Court. Say TikTok wins, then I would expect the DOJ to appeal to the Supreme Court as well.
Okay.
But both parties want it to be done by December.
Okay. Ashley Gold, thank you very much for bringing us up to date on that.
Thank you.